Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Thank you. And I will be turning things over to Councilman Hotchkiss, who is the Chair of Special Rules and Studies, to introduce RL 24-64, a resolution to adopt an ethics reform package.
Madam President, we have to do a roll call first.
Roll call. Thank you.
Councilmember Porter,
Present.
Councilmember Middleton,
Present.
Councilmember Kavanaugh,
Present.
Councilmember Dundon,
Present.
Councilmember Costi,
Present.
Councilmember Hotchkiss,
Present.
Council President Matavetsky.
Present.
Thank you.
And now I hand things over to Councilman Hotchkiss, Chair of the Special Rules and Studies Committee.
Thank you. So this is RL 24-64, a resolution to adopt ethics reform package reform. So I had previously introduced legislation that would require financial disclosure forms to be filled out for city council, for elected officials in the city, for appointed people, for department heads. This is just a basic move towards good governance. And since that's been introduced and I've been exploring trying to do a joint service agreement and understanding how the county gets this done for all of their employees or appointed people, this has evolved, and a resident, Kenny Brown, had also introduced some legislation that was trying to ban city employees from getting unethical financial benefits through contracts. So that's the first two pieces, and that kind of it all, at least at the county, it goes through an ethics board, and right now they are kind of swamped or uninterested in doing a joint service agreement with the city of Binghamton, where we would send our financial disclosures and ethics disclosures there. So if we want to get this done, we have to make this ethics board in-house. So that's where that comes from. Ultimately, I think these are really just good government practices, and it'll help us enforce some of the ethics laws that are already in the charter. So that's what those pieces are about. Mike, do you want to get into some of the other items?
Yeah, so with the ethics board, I cross-referenced multiple municipalities, including our own county. Came up with, taking the best out of everybody's is how I wrote that. So, I mean, all this other stuff is useless if we do not have an enforcement mechanism. I mean, that's why we developed the ethics board to oversee the process. So the big thing is as big as this package is, and talking with corporate counsel, some of these items need to be broken down for individual committees, and corp counsel needs to do the due diligence for any possible referendums, because there's stuff that's regarding the mayor, you have to have referendums, or if there's any local law or charter amendments. So all this is going to go through corporate counsel. We're going to work with corporate counsel, go a piece at a time, make sure we're not breaking any laws, whether it's in our own charter, whether it's a state law, or to make sure if it does need to be on a referendum for a vote, that it is, we do everything right. There's no point of rushing this and then not doing this correctly.
Just some of the other big items that have just come from being elected for the last 90 days and kind of what we have seen and some of the difficulties we've encountered. I think that goes into strategic planning. So we want 5-year plans to be required for all departments. I think this is just a really a good practice. And so when I go to the sewage board, they're actually starting theirs. And that makes me optimistic that we can get it done with all the other departments here in the city. Additionally, we want to have better employee support and employee support services for the training and development. I think there's a lot of room for improvement in the city as far as professional development and supporting the growth of our employees here. So that's what those those items hope to achieve.
And then we'd like to also, add to promote transparency, financial accountability, making changes to the bond system, have more clarity in budget reporting and more comprehensive budget hearings. So, and then the other part, which we would have to wait, because it seems like that's going to need a referendum, is reform the appointment process so that we have mayoral appointments with council confirmation hearings and work in a more bipartisan way. That I did just find out tonight that will have to be a referendum.
So we recognize that's a lot. Does anybody have any questions for us or comments? Nothing? Come on.
Councilman Kavanaugh.
First, thank you for the work you guys have been in and all the time, effort, everything you've been reaching out, and you've been conscientiously kind of keeping track of issues that have been cropping up and we've been facing. And I think continue. I might have gotten a bad microphone tonight. Oh, okay. So I think this is I guess it's technically a second step. Nate's resolution was the first step, and now we've expanded that. And I think now it's, as you folks just said, it's going to be some committee work, a lot of work from the Corp Council's office, working through these, and we'll probably have some extra pieces getting added in there as well, I'm sure. So there's a tremendous amount to say, there's a tremendous lot to do, but I think this is an exciting public airing of what we've been contemplating and working on. So thank you.
Thanks.
Any further discussion?
No,
Councilwoman Middleton.
I just want to say thank you also. And, when do we plan to vote on this and what is the turnaround date on this?
So it's going to get broken up into a couple individual pieces. Talking with corporate counsel, we're going to work on the ethics board and the ethics disclosure first and make sure we get all the legalities on that.
Mhm.
And then we'll just keep going down the list.
Okay, and just another question, with the ethics board, how would that how's that gonna come? Is it appointed? Like, how would that?
Yes.
It's,
So.
yeah, I know.
So there's actually going to be 5 members on it. One of them will be the chair of the special committees. I can never remember Nate's committee, Special Rules and Studies Committee.
Mhm.
One of them will be Corp Council, and then the other 3 get appointed by the mayor with confirmation of city council.
Okay.
And you can have no more, if I remember correctly, as I wrote it, 3 members of the same party at any given time.
Oh, okay, I like that.
Yes, no more than 3 members shall be of the same political party.
I like it.
So question came to my mind, calling on myself, in terms of the appointments discussion. What about city council appointments? What about the fact that we hired a department head, the clerk? And will it be some sort of reciprocal item? Right, if the mayor's appointments are getting confirmed by
Yeah.
city council, is there going to be something reciprocal?
Yeah, that's where I'm pretty sure in corporate council, you could clear it up for me, but I'm sure once the ethics board is in there, then that would make it unilateral across the thing. So any appointments we would have confirmation of the mayor, and any appointments he has confirmation of city council.
Thank you. That was. I had some little nitpicky questions, like I wasn't sure I understood who was responsible for the regular check-ins and the employee support services.
That would be the employees committee.
Oh, okay, all right. Not their super. Right?
Do you
Is
have any
there
further questions? Yeah, I mean, we're open to suggestions. If you come up with them after this meeting, you can just email or talk to us about it. But yeah, I'm happy where it is right now, but it's gonna continue to evolve and we're gonna keep moving forward with it.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. So now we continue on with Councilman Hotchkiss, but in his role as Chair of the Planning Committee, to introduce RL 24-55, an ordinance to amend the 2024 budget to allocate ARPA funds to support the Southern Door Community Land Trust. And we have the Executive Director of the Southern Door Community Land Trust as our speaker today. Hajra Aziz.
Welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm gonna
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna suggest you reorient your microphone so it's.
How
Yeah,
about that?
perfect.
Okay.
Tell us everything.
All right. I will try to tell you everything. So good evening. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen of the council, for taking the time to hear about this project. My name is Hajra Aziz. I am the Executive Director for the Southern Door Community Land Trust, a grassroots community-led nonprofit organization with a focus on deep and permanent affordable housing in Broome County. My role tonight really is to be here to answer questions in regard to the social impact, social determinants of health around housing and the impact on community members. So what I will do initially is introduce my developer, who's going to walk us through the project and some of the numbers, and we'll kind of bounce back and forth with each other to answer any questions that may arise. So I'll pass the mic.
Good evening. My name is Dominique Rice, and I'm the managing partner of DAR Developers. I included in the packet that you guys received a few projects that we worked on in North Carolina. A lot of people ask what's our experience and how did we come to Binghamton to do affordable housing. So the first thing that I want to share is that I am from Binghamton. I was born here. My mom was raised right down the street on Carroll Street, and I grew up in Center City, Binghamton, until we moved away. So Binghamton is my hometown. For the last 5 years, I've been doing real estate in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I have been developing and homes for families. So a few of the projects that I'd like to share with you guys are just properties that we took, we fixed up, and then we were able to put them back on the tax roll and sell them to families. Unlike many investors in Charlotte, most people sell to hedge funds because you make more money. But we decided that it's very important that we help families live in the neighborhoods and not sell to hedge funds. So I attached 3 projects that we completed that we were able to sell to help families. In addition, some of my experience as a developer is I work with a company called MLH Investor, and it's owned by Michelle Harrison. I've helped her with many pre-development projects, as well as we have a fund that we help seniors. So we help seniors stay in their homes. So that's a little bit about my experience. Does anybody have any questions?
No, not at this time.
Okay, awesome. So now we will jump right into talking about this project that we have on 6 Florence Street. Has everyone had an opportunity? Do you guys know where it's located and know anything about the project? I think most council members do, right? So awesome. So this is a project that the Southern Door Community Land Trust acquired from the county. This property at the time of acquisitions had families living in all the units. The property should have been condemned because of the condition that it was in. The previous owner, not only did they not pay taxes, but they also did not keep the property up to code by any standard. So we come today to kind of talk about what this project looks like. So first, I want to make sure that you guys all have a copy of the packet in front of you. that we have for the 6th Florence Street to be able to go over that with you.
I don't think I have the 6 Florence one. I've got all the other, we've got.
It
It
should be.
should be in the back.
It's the last one.
Okay. There it is. Thank you.
Do we have any extra folders floating around?
Yes. We'll take one so we can follow along with you guys. Thank you so much. So some of our council members have had the opportunity to meet with us to kind of go over this packet, but I wanted to share all the numbers with you all and see if anyone has any questions and how we can better assist you. So on the first page, it just shows a photo, but on your second page, you can find the details about the property. The property consists of 6 units. Here in Binghamton, it's very hard to find 4 and 3 bedroom units for families. This project has 2 4-bedroom units and 2 3-bedroom units, as well as a 2 2-bedroom units. So this is really great for families who are currently displaced and unhoused. The good thing about this project is that the Southern Doors Community Land Trust has decided to keep rents extremely low, because a lot of times when we see affordable housing, it's still unattainable for our local residents. Sounds affordable to us, but it's not affordable to them. The rental amount that we propose for this project for a 2-bedroom unit is $550 per month, $650 per month for a 3-bedroom, and $750 per month for the 4-bedroom units. This will allow families to be able to live, save, maintain, and be able to start thinking about what's next for them, whether it's homeownership or finding somewhere that they can live on their own without subsidy. Does anybody have any questions about the rental rates?
I do.
Yes.
I just wanted to know, how would you, like, with that money, how would you be able to keep up with the maintenance? Like,
So that's a great question. We do have, I think it's on the 4th page, we'll go over kind of how this is a sustainable project.
Okay.
And that is a very important question, because the Southern Door Community Land Trust is asking for a one-time subsidy for this project. And this project will be sustainable for the next 40 years with this one-time payment. So unlike other projects that need more money, or you're not sure if you can do it, or if this isn't pre-development, this is a long-term investment into the city of Binghamton. So on our right-hand side, under assumptions and projections, we have an outline of the project. We are expecting, we want to have in the budget a 10% rehab runover cost, which means typically in the real estate development, there is some kind of runover outside of the construction budget, and that is approximately 10%. When we go to the next page and we talk about numbers for housing and what Councilwoman Middleton brought up, the standard for vacancy rate is approximately 10%. We believe it'll be much lower for this project because we know that people need somewhere to live, right? So we're not going to have much vacancy. The appreciation per year for this property is approximately 3%. The income increase over the term of this project will not increase. We will not change these rates for the next 30 years. So we are guaranteeing sustainable, affordable housing for years to come. What we do have to be realistic about is that the expense increase will grow, right?
Mhm.
Because we're not going to raise the rent, but expenses are going to increase. So we calculated approximately 2% increase for that.
I'm sorry, just to cut you off, 2% for the whole 30 years that you're saying that?
Each
or-
year.
Each year, okay. I'm sorry.
So,
Sorry.
no worries. Thank you for asking. So that is a 2% increase each year to account for inflation. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, but we're calculating an average 2%. Does anybody have?
I'm gonna slow you down a little bit, and now I can't, hang on. How are you, so you're saying you're guaranteeing these rental rates for 30 years?
Yes.
Is that like outlined contractually, or how is?
That would be something that the Southern Door Community Land Trust would put into the agreement with the city.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
And I
Yes,
had-
thanks, you.
I had another question. I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself. So what would be the process, if someone wanted to get an apartment there? So would they have to go through a certain amount, or is there a wait list, or how does that work to know that, someone would qualify for that amount in rent? Is it kind of like a Binghamton Housing Authority wait list, or how does that work?
So our plan is to take the HUD LMI guidelines
Okay.
and look more to between 30 and 50% LMI or AMI. And then that would be the eligibility to get into the places. What the difference is that as people find stability and upward mobility, they are able to make more money, save, et cetera, without it becoming problematic, without it becoming punitive to say that they price themselves out of the apartment. So we would use it as a guideline to make sure we're serving that group of people, but then also leave it open so that they have the ability to grow forth from there.
And also upon receiving funding, the first individuals that would be invited will be at the top of the list were the people who were living in the property that were displaced during this process. So the Southern Door Community Land Trust worked really hard to help individuals who were living there find other housing options. So they will be invited to come back first.
Yes.
And then the Southern Door Community Land Trust has their own, then once they'll create their own waiting list from there of applicants who will be eligible to reside in the property.
Sorry, I have some more questions. I'm just nosy, I'm sorry. Um, so when do you, if you were to receive this money, when do you think this project would be finished? To start having people live in that?
So our goal with meeting today is that if we could get this done, we would love to have individuals home for the holidays. So we could have people housed by the end of the year.
I'm gonna,
I have a question.
Councilman Dundon.
So on the front of this, it says cash needed is little over 1.4 million, but you're asking for 1.1 million. What's the discrepancy?
So there has been some funding. So Hadro can share about the funding that has already been received and then some potential grants that we have coming in as well.
Right. We have been awarded the $100,000 from the Housing Trust Fund through the Community Foundation. We also received with the building funding from the county. So we've utilized those funds to begin the rehab phase or gutting the building, getting it prepared. And we've also been furiously writing for different grants to cover our projects as we move forward. So
That kind of leads me to my next question. So then this is something that it has to be cash. There's no way we could do like a pilot or tax subsidies, as you guys actually need the subsidy of the cash to move forward. There's no other way to work that out.
yes.
Okay.
So thank you. So we kind
I
of
was gonna say, I figure we give a lot of pilots out, so we might as well do something good with one.
So on the lower right-hand side on the third page, you can see the rehab cost. The standard developer fee is approximately 15% of the project. The administrative fees, which cover the process of the wait list, doing interviews for potential tenants and residents, that's what the administration fee for. The renovation budget is $1.1 million, as well as the cost run over is the 10%. So this is the budget for the project. The total per square foot price is $233.30, which is very standard for projects of this caliber.
I wanted to share the conversation. So Corporation Council and I were having a little sidebar about the restraints and rules and guidelines for using ARPA money, and that working with Dr. Burling would be a first step in terms of making sure that things are handled appropriately. I don't know if you want to jump in with more details.
Yeah, so the ARPA funding is not, it's not unrestricted. There are a lot of conditions on it. It's federal money.
Right.
There's a lot of auditing requirements. So, and the contracts are quite extensive. So it might be something we generally refer people to the planning department. Dr. Burling handles a lot of the feasibility studies, the feasibility of getting these projects off the ground. So I think that would be the first step, if you've talked to Dr. Burling or no.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Any further questions?
I just had a question, sorry. So just a quick question to you, Sophie. I know that you're saying that the ARPA funds, there's like restrictions on like certain things, because I know we've given out ARPA funds to like crazy things. So I was just.
Greater opportunities seem
Building
like
a
it.
roof over,
Huh?
over the council chambers.
Yeah, but what would you say? Sorry?
I think the most like comparable thing that we just did with ARPA funds is the approval for greater opportunities to build on Munsell Street. I know it's a $2.5 million allocation, so
Yeah.
that's kind of, I don't know, if you see that happening, it's just like, oh, maybe it can happen with other
Yeah,
projects.
no, and
Yeah.
there was just one with the Salvation Army, and they're quite extensive
Mhm.
Contracts that we have to review. There's a lot of planning that goes into it. There's a lot of auditing, because there are a lot of federal restrictions.
Yeah.
So what would apply to this specific project? I'm just getting this information for the first time, but certainly we could look through it. But speaking with Dr. Burling about the next steps in the planning department regarding the relevant material that's required to go forward. So everybody's fully informed and transparent, I think is the first step.
Right.
So now we'll go to page 4. And this is where this will, Councilwoman Middleton, this will really show you the actual numbers to show how this project is sustainable without additional funding. Even with extremely low rent, this project would still cash flow. So even with our operating expenses, maintenance, cap expenditures, insurance, it is still able to be sustainable. So at the bottom of page 4, the Southern Door Community Land Trust is a nonprofit organization. So they are not paying property taxes. They are open to contributing to the city. So again, and when we talk about contracts, it's very important that we are engaged in the city and make sure that we're doing our part. So that would be something similar to what Saratoga has been doing, is giving a gift to the city to, make sure that we're doing our part. Each line item is shown below, and keep in mind that with our budgeting, we expect for this to go up approximately 2% each year. So for year 1, the insurance, the property tax, the maintenance, the cap expenditures. The thing to think about maintenance is that there will be less maintenance because everything will be brand new. So this will be currently the property is taken down to the studs. So everything will be energy efficient. Everything will be new. Most things would have a warranty. So that's why we have this maintenance amount that will go basically into a fund that will save for when maintenance is needed. Also for the cap expenditures, that covers the bigger things that we probably won't need to replace for 15 plus years, like boiling systems, roofing, things of that nature. So we are very, very confident that these numbers will do because everything will be new. In addition, there are some utilities because the organization has to pay for utilities in the common area. We also have a company that is interested in donating landscaping services and some volunteers from the community that would like to contribute that. Does anybody have any questions about the expenses? So now we'll go to page 5, where you will see the sustainability of this project. You'll be able to see the operating costs from year 1, 2, 3, 5, and then as well as 10, 20, and 30. You'll see that our operating income at the top is not increasing because we are not increasing the rents. You'll see the operating expenses are increasing each year by 2%. Even when we increase each year by 2%, year 30, we will still be sustainable and having cash flow. So this will show you that this affordable housing project is sustainable without any additional funding from the city. Does anybody have any questions? We have the contractor here today that is going to be doing the work. He is a BIPOC business owner here in Binghamton, and he has done the demolition of the property, and he is also doing the weatherization of the basement currently. So if you have any questions for our contractor, he's happy to answer any questions you may have.
I'm wondering, like, I always get excited when things are getting built to like, LEED standards for like energy efficiency. Is that a target for this project or is that?
Yes, it is. We're working to make sure that resiliency is baked in, right? Because folks that we're serving are typically those who are displaced during weather-related crises. So we want to keep folks housed as long as possible. So that will be fundamentally important to anything that we put into our real estate portfolio. But I am currently a part of a CLT Academy that's working with CLTs across New York State. And climate resilience is a key component to what CLTs are doing.
Right. I think, I don't know. For me, I feel like one of the exciting elements of this is that it is a land trust and it's the only land trust in Binghamton. And this would be the first project. And I think land trusts represent really like a gold standard for sustainable, affordable housing, and equitable, affordable housing. And I'm envious that, I don't know, what I've learned about land trusts over the last few years is there's one in Albany that's been going for 50 years. So it makes me think like, if we, like, the best time to have started this would have been 50 years ago. And the next best time is like today or with this project. So I think those are, that's what excites me. I'm of course, like, I think everybody that like looks at numbers either gets overwhelmed or like sticker shocked with the pricing and like the price per unit. And I think a lot of that is warranted. And also I think it's like, if it wasn't expensive to build and rehab homes, we wouldn't have a housing crisis. So it's like you weigh like this is really expensive and it will help solve some of our problems, but it is really expensive. Like, I don't know, that's just some of my thoughts about the whole project.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I think also I was wondering if like this, so all of this goes directly to this project, so it's not like helping with operation
Right.
costs.
It all
So,
goes
okay,
directly
that's
to the
straight.
project.
I actually would like to ask your contractor some questions, please.
Awesome. He's here.
How's it going? So seeing that the property wasn't maintained as you were doing demo, did you notice any water damage on any of the load bearing joints or any of the posts or beams that are holding up the house?
Yes, there's a few. It's
Oh, yeah. I got 16 years as a union labor construction, so I was curious though if that's going to be part of the cost in the rehab.
yes, that's in there. I have a background in disaster.
Okay. Okay.
It has to be green.
Is it green?
There you go.
Is that good?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not used to this. I'm sorry. Yeah, I have a background in disaster assistance, so I've made document of all of the load bearing beams that were damaged, the roof damage, and that's all in there, along with some of the monoposts that's in the basement that has rusted out. It's, beyond the life of a monopost.
Yeah. So then you're going to weatherproof that all, replace all them and work your way up, I'm guessing?
So we started recently on the basement, and we're waterproofing the basement now. added a sump pump, and it's in there to replace mostly all the monopoles that's rusted out and sister up some of the beams and just take out what we need to take out and put in what we need to put in.
Okay. I was just curious because when you hear a property sat there and then you hear people are rehabbing, they don't actually demo it all the way down
Mm.
and then pull out any bad load bearing walls or bad load bearing joints. All right, thank you.
No problem.
Is it possible to get your report on what you found in the building?
Yes, absolutely.
Do you have any other questions for me in regard to the population we plan to serve? Lasting affordability, how we plan to reach that, anything of that nature?
No, but you can explain that to us if you'd like.
Lasting affordability. So the key term that I have been using for a while has been permanently affordable. A lot of the ways that I've tried to explain it in lack of better terms was a rent freeze for some people, kind of understanding what rent freezes are, so that we know that, you know, as people cycle in or out, that the rent will remain stable. But deep permanent affordability is a key component to community land trusts. That is the fundamental part that provides stability. So the 30 years that we have in the report, that's specific, you know, to this particular project, but our intention, our goal, particularly for this project and any other project, is beyond that. So in perpetuity. So a permanent affordability, so that as families move along the housing continuum, finding themselves stable, able to move forward up and out, that we're able to now cycle in another family in that position of need. So that lasting affordability is baked into, we'll use the LMI and AMI because HUD has those structures in place, but we understand that where folks are in our community, we need to go a little bit beneath that number to actually make ends meet for folks.
Definitely, especially with everything becoming so expensive.
Right.
So now just another question while you're talking. So who would like run the management office? Like, would you be in charge of it? The Southern Tier, like your,
Well, I hope not. I hope to grow so that I'm not the only person in the seat. But you know, as a small nonprofit organization,
course.
executive directors wear many hats.
Yes.
So the goal is to continuously be looking for property manager, program manager, et cetera. So for now, I would be the person that will probably be doing some of the application processes, getting people, you know, going through the eligibility process, et cetera. But again, as Dominique mentioned, our first commitment is to bring back the folks that we supported in transitioning out.
Okay.
And then whatever is available, then we'll look at community. So again, as we grow, we'll have people who can take on those positions.
Okay, and a few other questions. Have you thought about applying for CBG funds or anything HUD related funds?
We have thought about it.
Okay.
We're getting closer to it.
Okay.
Applying for those funds takes a lot of resources.
Okay.
And at this stage in our growth, we just didn't have the capacity.
Okay.
But I believe that we're moving forward. Once we are able to do a project and do a project well
Mhm.
and have people in, you know, housed, then I think we'll be able to expand our net to look at other possibilities.
Awesome. And another question, who else is funding this project? Do you have any other funders that are helping you fund besides us potentially helping fund this?
Besides you potentially funding, we do not, outside of monies that we've already received, Housing Trust Fund, different programmatic funds through the Community Foundation. This is our primary ask at this time for this project.
Another thing is, as a new organization, it's very hard to get funding for your first project because a lot of the state funding, they want to see experience. Well, you can't get experience if you haven't done anything. And so we know that by funding this project, it'll put the Southern Door Community Land Trust in the position to go after those state funding and to go after federal funding, because now we have something to show that's been completed and done successfully. So that's why we came straight to the council to ask for your support for this project.
I would just say another thing too. I think on us too, when there isn't a you know, and when it's something new too, we're all taking risks too, because we're worried too. So
Mhm.
that's just something I want you to know.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's risky for us to
Right.
just like vote on something we don't
Right.
know.
And just like, the pre-development project, we allocated $2.3 million for pre-development to see if a project would work, right? So that's an opportunity that we allocated ARPA funds to test out to see. Now that project could not work and we invested $2.3 million. This ask is saying for $1.1 million, and we're going to actually provide sustainable housing. So, there are risks that council has to take, and it happens, every year with every council. So I totally understand the risk, but betting on a local organization, especially a BIPOC org, gives us the opportunity to try to do something new and to try something and to see, we're pretty confident. I've done this and we know that we can make it happen.
And sorry, another question. Then how would you, like, say you got the money, how would you update? Sorry, how would you update us? Like, would you be able to give us like, some updates on what you're doing and like the
Yes.
process?
Of
Of
course.
course, I
Yeah.
believe that would be important to showcase,
Most-
what the council was able to invest in. We want, a community land trust does not work without community. And so we want that to be a part of everything that we do.
And that can be baked into the agreement, X amount of updates, this is the requirement, even keeping rent at that rate. Those are the kind of conversations that we want to have with you guys to know exactly what your needs are from the council. What do you want? What do you require for this project? And holding developers and nonprofit organizations responsible when they do get this money. So what we must do should be included, with this funding.
I have a question. I want to backtrack a little bit. Why did the other project fall through, I should say? The one you said you needed $2.3 million.
That was not our project. That
Oh,
was a project
okay.
that the previous council put money towards. It's in Mr. Porter's district. Is that in your district? The
Street.
Clinton Street project. So that project,
My
yeah, so
misunderstanding,
it's
okay.
that project. So that's what we say by, we know that there's risk, but that was also a very big risk for pre-development. And as we know, pre-development is just the opportunity to try and see if this is even going to work before you develop. We're actually going in with development. We're going in with a shell that's ready for the work, and we're ready to house people by the end of the year if we can move quickly versus a project that's 2 and 3 years out. Even though it's more units, we can house people with this project, and the size of the units, we're easily able to help 20 plus people home for the holidays. And that may seem like a small number, but for our schools and for our families, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
I'll just jump in. So do you have any other, a model or other examples of, from other CLTs or just other nonprofits where the entire, development and construction cost has been like just front loaded like this rather than through some financing model? I'd like somewhere to look
Right.
where this has been, where it's just like, it was all cash in hand and it was got done.
So I
And how
don't
that's
have that
worked out.
information with me today, but I'm pretty confident that I can get something that I can share with the council.
I would be interested, very interested in seeing.
We have some very fruitful CLTs as our neighbors in Buffalo and Rochester, where they've done huge projects in connection with their county as well as their land banks, et cetera. So I'll look for some material that I can share.
Thank you. But specifically the sort of the funding mechanism I'm looking
Yes.
at, right, where we're just, like I said, it's basically cash.
Right.
Right?
Mhm.
Okay. Cool.
My last piece on that. So I think I was talking with the folks that are planning on their own town and country and are planning on doing that whole like rehab and redevelopment, and it's like they're counting on like a really big lump of money from the state. But when that comes in, then they can be approved for a loan, which is going to be like another huge chunk of money that'll like finance that whole thing. So like I haven't gone to a bank before to ask for like development money, but is that something that you guys have explored? for,
So,
if
be-
if it
yeah.
was like half of the amount that you're asking.
So we do have some options, but we have to have some commitment from the city. So we have actually met with private investors who would be interested in funding the project. I'm personally working on bringing investors to Binghamton that have invested in projects that I've done, and they're really excited. Their only concern is the city going to support you and what that would look like. But we do have private investors. But keep in mind, our cash flow is very low. So we would have to get quite a bit of money from ARPA funding to make sure that the mortgage is sustainable throughout the 30 years, especially with extremely high interest rates. So we do have access to some private funding that we would be able to pull from if we had some opportunities here, So again, the conversation that we're having today is just the start. So if we can come up with some kind of solution, with what the city can do and what council will approve, we're sure we can make this project happen.
Thank you. I don't know. Is there anybody else?
I just want to chime in. That was an excellent presentation, and I wish
really
more
good.
people would come up and actually present legislation like that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank
Well,
you.
thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you.
And
Really good presentation.
now I continue to have Councilman Hotchkiss, Chair of Planning Committee, continue to facilitate. This time it'll be RL 24-63, an ordinance to amend the 2024 budget to allocate ARPA funds to provide funding for DAR development. And we have managing partner of DAR development, Dominique Rice.
Well, Councilman Dundon, here I am again.
So.
Yeah.
Similar but different, so. Take it away whenever you're ready.
All right, so very similar format, different project. So this project that I will be going over now is 18 Cary Street. So the reason why I like both the projects that I previously presented in this project is because it reaches a different demographic. 18 Cary Street is 4 units. So this particular property is in District 4 on the north side. This property consists of 4 units, 3 one-bedrooms and 1 3-bedroom unit. We are lacking 1-bedroom units as well as 3-bedroom units. So this is why this project is a very great opportunity. The previous owner did not maintain the property at all. The property had 2 fires. One was deemed an electrical fire due to bad wiring. This is very common here in Binghamton because we're not making sure that our landlords and our property owners are maintaining the homes that they own. So when we purchased this property, which we acquired, we purchased it and it was fully gutted. Part of the reason the owner sold the property is because they were constantly getting in trouble due to illegally gutting the property, doing things that they weren't supposed to be doing. So we're very fortunate that we got a complete shell. So we can see everything that was wrong. We can go in and we can estimate everything. Everything was opened up when we received the property. So that was something that we were very grateful for. The presentation is the same. If you go to page 3, you will see on the right-hand side, assumptions and projections. DAR Developers is a for-profit entity that is committed to the city of Binghamton. So we, as a for-profit developer, will not ask the city for any rehab cost runover. Any cost runover will be the responsibility of the development company. With that being said, our vacancy rate is the same, approximately 10%. We can jump on down to the rehab cost. The rehab cost for this project is $434,000. The cost per square foot is $123.60. Part of the reason our cost per square foot is lower is because we received the property fully gutted. So that was something that really helped us a lot. Does anybody have any questions about the cost per square foot or the renovation budget? So now we can go to the next page, which is page 4. I also want to share with you the rent rates. So the rent rates are focusing on extremely low income. So we are committed to renting 1-bedroom units for $401 per month, which really helps meet that extremely low guidelines for individuals who need it. We also, for the 3-bedroom unit, would like to accept vouchers, which a lot of individuals are having a hard time. I have spoken and we have done surveys throughout the city of Binghamton to people and families who have a Section 8 voucher that have nowhere to go because no one will take their voucher. And we are committed to ensuring that individuals with vouchers will be at the top of the list to make sure that they have the option for adequate housing. Because this is a for-profit entity, we do pay property taxes. So our property taxes are outlined in here. We have all of the expenses outlined. And again, this is a fully sustainable project. So a one-time investment will allow us to be able to have sustainability for the next 30 to 40 years without raising the rents and without asking for any additional funding from the city. All of the numbers are presented on page 5 to show that it is a sustainable project. Does anybody have any questions?
I don't think it's necessarily on page 5, but now I lost it. But you said this house is from 1850. So, I'm I'm all about historic preservation, but at what point, and maybe you know from your own experience that is there like, and I'm sure it's been rehabbed over the years probably and renovated, but like, does the age of that frighten you at all?
No, the house is fully gutted, so it's literally just a shell. There's nothing in there now. So if anybody ever wants to schedule a walkthrough, I'd be happy to walk you through the house. But the house is just a shell. So there's every single thing in the property will be new. There's no kitchen, no bathroom, there's nothing. It's just a complete shell. So everything will be energy efficient, new, and highly functionable.
Yeah, Councilman Hotchkiss, just to give you a little history. A lot of the older houses in the city of Binghamton, like mine was built in 1920, they have the old aluminum wiring in them that were never updated to copper. And that's why some of these houses catch on fire and burn down the way they do. Because the aluminum will heat up from the fact we use more electronics now than ever, and it'll actually burst, they'll burst and catch fire in your wall. I had it happen at my house.
So that's why all new electrical, all new plumbing, everything will be brand new. So we won't have to worry about the fires component. This property had 2 fires. And when the fires happened, then we also saw that sometimes the beams were impacted, right? So beams have fire damage that were never fixed. They just went over it and just had people continue to live there. And you see all of that now that it's opened up.
Can you talk me through the fiscal sponsorship? Because you have YWCA as a fiscal sponsor
So
listed.
because we are a for-profit developer, the YWCA has agreed to be the fiscal sponsor for this project. We also will be bringing in a consulting firm to have an open level of transparency. A company called Let's Brainstorm. There's many companies, but that's the company we would like to work with that monitors developers when you get money from the city. So that way there's a checks and balance system. You're not just, like you guys said, it's a large lump sum of money, right? So you don't want to just give money and not have that proper checks and balance. So having a nonprofit fiscal partner gives you that level of transparency, as well as a consulting firm that has a third-party lens that can report to council and keep you guys updated on the financials of the project. Just, again, to have that level of transparency.
Everyone good? Okay,
I don't know, but one last
Councilman Hotchkiss.
One last note, like that between Carey Street and Sturgis, there's just an abundance of empty abandoned houses. I think there was like a concentration of like Annsroot homes that are in various states of disrepair. I mean, this isn't a question for you, but this is kind of just a statement, but this one wasn't one of his. And yeah, it's one of those situations, again, that it's like, there's all these empty houses, everybody needs a place to stay. And it's super expensive to do the rehabs, but you don't want it to be in the hands of someone that's just acting in their own self-interest and not really considering the livelihood of the people that are, or of the tenants. But those couple of streets need reinvestment.
Definitely. And part of it is that, you know, it's scary being the first house on the street to do something, you know, it's a major investment, but we speak to homeowners on that street. So we have multiple homeowners who plan to come speak at council and to share their desire for this project that live on Cary Street because they really want something done over there and they really believe that this could be the start to something great. By doing projects like this will help show other investors to come over to this side of town and to really reinvest in the north side. So having a model of excellence for other landlords and other developers to go by would really help attract other individuals.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have, I'll be turning things over to Councilman Porter, who's the chair of the Employees Committee, for RL 24-58, an ordinance to amend the 2024 budget for HUD admin and housing to add CDBG funded housing and community development
it's me.
specialist position. And our guest presenter is Dr. Burling, Director of Planning.
It's me. I was on the other. I was down one.
Come.
Hello, Dr. Brown. It's possible you can give an overview of what this is.
Yep, absolutely.
Is this more like a position that is open?
It's a position that I'd like to have added into our office. Basically, it would be in the housing division. So it's a new position. We
Okay.
just, I worked on it last summer, wrote it and sent it through to civil service where they approved it. And now we're trying to get it funded and in my budget line. And it is funded through CDBG. It's 100% eligible, so. But, I'm hoping it will be a permanent, you know.
Oh, I mean,
position.
how long had it been without it?
Well,
Oh.
we had originally 4 people in our housing division and can you hear me okay? Okay, all right, sorry. When our housing caseworker retired, her position was not refilled. So a lot of what she did, it falls under this and it was divvied out amongst our office and so this would pull all of that back into one position plus some additional responsibilities,
Okay,
but it's a new position.
but it's a new position,
Yep.
so it hasn't, I didn't quite hear how long it had the position been open or being that it's new.
Yeah, it hasn't been. Yeah, we haven't had a chance to post it. So we just had it approved by civil service last summer, I believe. And we needed to add it into our budget, get it funded, get it approved, and then I want to post it like as soon as we're allowed to. So that's why I did request it to be expedited, just because it is such a it's something that we need. So I do have I don't know if you're interested, but we did have support from our HUD, what do we call it, coordinator in Buffalo. She recommended this position, and when I ran it by her, she was very, very supportive of it. And she did send an email about that. If you're interested, I could.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
Probably CC everyone else in it.
Okay, well, I printed it, so if you want to.
Thank you.
But I can tell you a little bit about the position itself. Okay. So we split it into 4 or 5 main, I guess, categories of work. one would be assisting with the budget management, to be just with all of the different funding sources for housing. It's specifically a housing position. To just keep an eye on, how much we're awarded, what the balances are, what's coming up, what do we have, with CDBG, we have prior year funds that haven't been all obligated yet. And we have a lot of demands on those. So this person would help to just keep track of all the demands in an actual running total. We do that, but this would fall under that position responsibility. Let's see. We also are looking for her to help with writing grants and with grant her or he, whoever we hire. I'm sorry, that was a slip. But we're looking for someone to help coordinate the subrecipients for CDBG requests. People fill out applications for funding annually. We could have up to 20 applications. So this person would walk through the applications with the individual, whoever is asking for funding, because they're difficult to fill out. So that's a lot of work right there. And then follow through with all information requests so that we get a complete application in so we can make an effective, allocation of funds to the subrecipients. We're looking at taking in client information. That's one of the possible position duties. We're right now, we're in a contract with Metro to do all the intake. So I wrote it into the position description in case we decided to. It's easier to have it in than to add work to a position. So I'm not sure if we're gonna do that or not, but we might. Let's see.
Is that a cost savings then, bring it back from Metro Interfaith? That's something we pay to do?
Yeah, but they're very experienced and it's very helpful to have them, but I wanted to have that. Yeah, the option. Thank you. Yeah. Let's see. This person also really would help with us in terms of marketing our programs, because we post them on the website. We give them out to the community development organizations we work with, but I want someone to actively advertise and help get the word out, help build new programs. Because right now that just kind of falls to everyone. So with one person's responsibility, we can get
Expand.
more.
Expand too.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you have somebody in mind for this position already or?
I mean, there's a number of people. I'm sorry, there's a number of people that are interested and have asked me about positions or any openings in my office. But once we post it, I don't think it'll be hard to fill. So it's a very interesting position, in my opinion. Right.
So the ongoing funding for the position is going to be community development block grant money every year.
Yep.
So it comes out of the overall pot.
Yeah,
Correct.
and I think there's 20% of that is a admin set aside, and we never spend that. So for all the prior years, we're looking at using 47 and 48 admin funding to fund half of it. And then till the new year starts in September, and then the new year funding will start. But our admin expenditures is, I think on average 10%. Some years a little more, most years a lot less.
So is that money we've been just losing? or-
No, we keep it, I think, for 5 years.
Okay.
So we try and spend it, but we're really trying to track costs that we can put over to the admin line. So my office, our timesheets, we created a new timesheet and it has a column that you can put your HUD hours and bill against that, just to help.
So you've been struggling to spend money, if everyone could be so
Well,
lucky. No.
not everything. Some departments are fully funded through CDBG. Building and code can be fully funded, since most of Binghamton is low, moderate income. The work has to be done in the HUD eligible areas, so there's a whole process for that. And I would assume that writing a plan and then implementing it would be HUD eligible, but it's not. Writing it is, implementing is not. So we have a little sheet of what we can bill against it, So if you'd been a contractor in the past, it's easy to track, but not everybody in my office was. So anyway, but
Well, with this specialist, that you have for this position, would this be able to help out? Well, I'm new to housing, so
Mhm.
would this be able to help out with other like the CLDT?
yeah, exactly. I was
Most
listening-
likely, it most
Yep.
likely will help, especially with them
Yeah,
and making sure they make more lower
yeah.
income for families.
And that's exactly what I was thinking during that presentation, that this position would be the perfect fit to work with an outside community member to get the funding in place, to identify the contract requirements and everything and help them do it. Yeah.
Um,
It's-
Dr. Burling, just to clear this up for me, so then this position is all through the civil service on the hiring, the posting,
Mhm.
minus the minimum requirements, what you need.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's already went through last summer. I mean, they approved the position description and the position itself, yeah. And it would be a tested position whenever the test is posted, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. So it'd be part of CSEA.
I just have two questions. Are you having trouble finding recipients for the grants otherwise?
No, but they do tend to be the same ones. And I'd like
Okay.
to broaden that.
Yes, definitely.
And it's a tremendous amount of work when we get the contracts in. Not all nonprofit organizations are well versed with filling out, you know, the kind of excruciatingly detailed requests for information that we have to give to HUD.
Mhm.
So we spend a lot of time reaching out to them, asking questions, filling out their budgets for them, conducting their, you know, financial analyses, and that goes way beyond my program assistant's job description. So this would, and having it all with one person makes it so much easier I can work with them. You know, when I'm working with 5 different people who have different parts of her job, that former position, it's not efficient. So
And
this would be really, really a good way to coordinate with the public, you know, and get information out, get the contracts approved, increase our level of funding that we can allocate.
And another question, I
Mhm.
think that's my last question. How would this position work with BLDC? Like, would it work together? Is there like an over? 'Cause It seems like it's
You mean
there's an
the
overlap.
city's BLDC?
Yes.
Steve Carson is the HUD administrator and he's an ex officio, I think. He's on BLDC. So this position would be reporting to him.
Okay.
So it would be a direct, you know, and we can always ask if we can include someone, if there's a special aspect to one of the BLDC meetings and have them sit in. But with Steve and I'm on the committee, I'm on BLDC, so we would coordinate. So I didn't think about having this position included on BLDC. Is that, if that's what you're asking?
Yes, like will it work in conjunction? Like will work together?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we do with any CDBG expenditures through BLDC with
Okay.
Steve Carson's in that. So, yeah. Sorry.
It seemed like there's a lot of kind of knowledge requirements. I know we're talked in the first bill tonight, request relating to training. Is there
Mhm.
a plan for all this training? How long do you perceive someone's going to need to get up to speed?
If someone has a general knowledge of contract management and HUD regulations, HUD rules, there are far too many to memorize them, but if you know where to find them, you know, and we know where to find them, and we're very well experienced with all of this. And so this new position would have hands-on guidance. I would imagine 1 to 3 months and they'd be completely self-sufficient. And, you know, being in the housing division within planning, housing, community development, they're right in with everybody that works with this regularly. So, yeah.
For this position, just looking at the budget, and maybe I'm wrong.
Mhm.
But is there? So what you expect of 79,780 is what the competitive price,
Well, the
competitive salaries,
the salary's 48,000.
48,000?
All the other is the, benefits, the FICA, all the health insurance costs. That's the full dollar cost of that position, but the salary is 48.
Okay, so the salary at 48, you
Yeah.
think that is the most competitive at the moment for?
Probably not, but it's about what we can afford. So, sorry. It would be enough to attract someone, definitely. And hopefully someone experienced or right out of college, hard to say.
Right? Oh, Councilman Kavanaugh.
I would just like to make a motion to expedite RL 24-58 to the next business meeting, please.
I'll second the motion.
Oh, thank you.
Roll call?
Councilmember Porter,
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton. Aye. Councilmember Kavanaugh,
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon,
Aye.
Councilmember Costi,
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Aye.
Council President Matavetsky.
Go with nay.
That is 6-1.
We good?
I'm just, I'm gonna state why I said nay. I'm interested, since you were mentioning that this funding, this admin funding could be used in code. I'd want a better understanding of what the trade-off is.
There's no trade-off. They do track their hours and get them to us, and we do submit it.
So with this
I was in
position, there'll
previous-
still be plenty of money
Oh,
for
absolutely.
all of the
Yeah, I was
billable
just using
hours of
that as
code.
an
Sorry,
example.
that's why I
Yeah.
kind of froze up there. I
No.
was like, I don't know the
Like my whole
trade-offs.
housing division, everyone there is 100% funded by CDBG. So some positions are fully fundable. Some like mine are not. I'm sorry,
Okay.
that was a bad example, but. yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
And
for
we have
clarifying.
we don't use it enough.
Okay,
We need
thank
to,
you.
no.
Anything further? All
No.
right,
I was gonna say, it's like we recognize that some of the grant administration and grant there's like a deficit of that knowledge and not necessarily knowledge, but like capacity is the better word in the city. So it's just like, this makes a lot of sense to me. So thanks for taking this on.
Yeah, no problem.
Understand it, yeah.
thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank-
All right, and with that, we'll keep things with Councilman Porter, who's the chair of our Employees Committee, as we introduce RL 24-57, an ordinance to amend the 2024 fire budget to pay fire mechanic from fire budget, moving from CSEA union to fire union effective 1/1/24 with retroactive salary increase, and we welcome down Director Drake Drees.
Hi, thanks for having me tonight. Talk about the fire mechanic. Fire mechanic position was previously in for reasons unknown to anyone in CSEA. And during the desk audit process, it was identified that that should probably be relocated to a different union. Initially thought Teamsters, but fire wanted them and Teamsters were okay with that, so they ended up in the fire union. And so when that happened, they obviously then they got bargaining rights for the fire mechanic, and fire mechanic got put into their pay scale. And so basically it's an adjustment for that pay scale, and that process took place. We had to do a separate MOU to their contract, which was effective January 1st, which represents why it begins on January 1st.
And which contract did you have to do the MOU to? Both of them, the CSEA and fire?
Yeah, both. Yeah.
Okay.
So you had to do one MOU was just to acknowledge that they're negotiating for that position, and then one to do all the other fun that goes along with it. salary benefits, et cetera, and acknowledging again that this position does get the fire department, retirement. They're not in fire retirement.
It does not get the fire department retirement?
Excuse me?
This position does not get the fire department retirement?
No, because you have to literally be a fireman. It's for, firemen only. So they remain with the Teamsters.
That's part of the IAFF International.
So this is not perhaps entirely unrelated to the police mechanic. You were trying to get some parity here, I'm guessing, between the
Right.
departments.
It's kind of like, it's like echo legislation,
Okay.
I guess, if you want to call it that. But I just make that up. That's a new term.
Yeah, I like it.
Sure. They said, don't make things up while you're up there, and I already failed.
Any further questions?
I mean, this would normally be a Chuck question, I guess, but or right to the chief, but as far as ongoing budgeting and keeping this as a sustainable increase. Yes, no,
Well, that
not
would
your
probably,
area.
probably be in their CBA, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's written into the C. So they allocated money, to fund this for the year, not out of personnel. We took it from some other equipment stuff, I think. But that'll be written into the contract moving forward. We got to change all the language in the contract because this would be the only person in their contract that's not a fireman. So it's a lot of editing.
My question about the retirement, more into the retirement, are they getting city retirement by any chance, or are they, since they're not covered by fire department?
Yeah, they'll get the same retirement as
City, okay. I
I
was just wondering, because it's.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, is it leaving a person at risk of not having some kind of retirement?
Oh, no,
But
they
okay.
definitely have.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And any last chance? Okay, great. Thank you so much. And then we move on to keeping it with Councilmember Porter, Chair of Employees. We have RL 24-62, a resolution to accept New York State resolution to reopen Section 384 of the Retirement and Social Security Law. And
I have a question for Corp Counsel. Seeing that this is one person, is this something we should take into executive session?
Yeah, typically, matters of personnel are an appropriate topic for executive session. If there's a motion, council can vote on it and we can adjourn to executive session. And council can vote to have, our personnel director come in and speak.
I make the motion to take it into executive session with the
Make a
personnel
second.
director.
I'll make a
okay,
second.
motioned by Councilmember Dundon, seconded by Councilmember Porter. Voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we're gonna be going into executive session to discuss a personnel matter with the the personnel director, Drake Drees.
I'd like to make a motion to come back into open session.
I guess
I'll
it's-
second
yeah.
the motion.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
So I would also like to make a motion on this RL 24-62 to expedite this.
I second.
discussion? Or, no discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
I think
Any-
we should do a roll call. on
Roll
that.
call?
Yeah,
Okay.
for that, for
Take a
expediting.
roll call.
Councilmember Porter,
Aye.
Councilmember Middleton. Aye. Councilmember Kavanaugh,
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon,
Aye.
Councilmember Costi,
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Aye.
Council President Matavetsky.
Aye.
That's 7-0.
And passes. All right, next we have,
Thank you.
yes, thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Kent. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, our
And
next
another one.
one is going to be handled by Councilman Kavanaugh, our chair of our Finance Committee, and it's RL 24-56, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Harding Brooks Agency for the city for workers' compensation insurance. Councilman Kavanaugh.
If you remember the history from a couple of our earliest sessions this year, the city has put out to RFQs, right? Yes, RFQs for some new insurance brokers for the various types of insurance that the city carries. I was able to sit in on some of the pitches for the workers' compensation broker. These are folks that go out and work on behalf of the city to secure, the best insurance rates possible for us. And the additional piece with the workers' compensation brokers and carriers is that they are able to provide a lot of, or should be able to provide a lot of additional training resources and efficiency resources in terms of handling and processing claims and keeping up with them, which in theory should benefit, both employee training and competency in the city and reducing need for workers' compensation claims and also handling them in an efficient manner. We've had, I think, our current broker for quite a long time. So it was sort of, I think, good practice to put these out for new input. I was able to sit in on a couple of those pitches. I did not. I missed the invitation to this particular pitch, but based on the earlier ones. I think Harding Brooks was able, and I'm sure Kent will be able to discuss this, was able to bring a pretty comprehensive package to the table of especially these added functions that they're able to undertake. So I will turn it over to Kent to sell us on Harding Brooks, I guess.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so we had 6 different pitches, for this agreement. And as it was stated, so they go out and, there's a marketplace for all the different types of insurances that the university carries, and they go out there in that marketplace and they negotiate on our behalf and get us, the best deals. There's no magic bullet in this, and that all the brokers have access to the same marketplaces and the same deals, more or less. So
there's basically 2 big ones, right?
Right, and
Yes.
there's 2 primary ones, exactly, and that's what it all goes towards. So you don't really have that much of an option. But so we've been with one company for a long time, and they all work with Right Risk. And so ultimately the other services that they're able to provide became the most important. I don't know about most important, but a very important part of the negotiations. And as you've heard me discuss here in other formats, we have a definite training deficit and kind of personnel development, professional development deficit. And so one of the things that in particular I was paying attention to during all the pitches was what kind of services and support do these companies provide in that area? Because it is a pretty big one. You're all probably familiar that we have the EAP program, and we work with ENI as kind of like the separate training branch of the EAP group. And that's who facilitates like the annual, state mandated training that we do online. So that comes through ENI. So there was a couple companies who, again, they were pretty vanilla, just like everybody else was and has been, including the folks who that we previously worked with. And I think one of the turnoffs there was that they do some of these things, but they didn't really push them or get us really involved in those things. And so their pitch was not as strong. There were two different groups who provided pretty good presentations, and the councilman got to sit on one of them. And so you could see the difference. The difference was palpable between the services that are provided. So I think what the city's going to really pick up, a lot of added value, I think, in going with this proposal is the employee support network, the training. They have awesome training modules online. They have a self-serve, which again, our current situation, we don't have anything really to go on online and do self-service. That they have a lot of expertise. They're local. That was another pretty important thing, that they're a local company. And
Vestal based, I think.
they're
yeah.
Vestal. Yeah, they're headquartered in Vestal. And I also looked at that all of the people who lead their departments, or executives, that kind of thing, they're all local. Because sometimes they'll say we're headquartered in Vestal and folks live in, San Diego or something. But these folks are all here. So it'll be nice that they all live here, and the service is really important. When you have a question, they can come right here and we can see people, in person. So that was pretty important for us also. So they have great risk management services. I talked, you can see on the documents that you have, their list of similar accounts. I talked to the folks down in Scranton because I think that's the most similar to us. And they're very satisfied, and they sang their praises that they're really on the spot. They get them good rates, but again, it's not highly competitive. Actually, the rate, everybody gets more or less the same. But that their service is outstanding. They've got a good risk management program that they come out regularly and make sure proactively that doing things, and we have things in place that are going to keep our employees safe from getting in trouble. That we have good, and there's good training to for them to do that. So that's really important. And again, that they will partner with us in terms of training, and that includes manuals. So they have a nice online manual creation system. And again, I think it's something that I've seen that most of the processes that we have in place, they seem to be a little bit tribal in that, they're just word of mouth, and that's because we've done it that way, but there's just not a lot in writing. And I think that's something that we really need to do, is put pen to paper. Sorry for being so archaic, but key punch that in and get some manuals written. And they have a great tool for doing that online. And also just emergency protocols in general. They worked with Scranton. They built a emergency protocol across the city from scratch. And we need help with ours also. So they definitely had a lot of the expertise and the software and local support that I feel like we needed right now to really kick our program into high gear. So they checked all of our boxes.
And then just to kind of remind everybody that the brokers get paid from the insurance companies. So
Right.
the value added services they're giving back to us is sort of almost like a rebate out of what they take a cut off that we weren't getting from our other company, essentially.
Right.
And if we are not happy, how long is this agreement mandatory, or?
I think it's
I didn't.
2 1-year original renewal without
So-
to renew. Yeah.
So if we don't like it, we can opt out pretty quickly. But,
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So low risk, high potential for reward, I
Yeah.
think, with these folks.
And I think in 2 years we'll know, because like I say, in terms of those, putting together the manuals and the trainings, we'll know within 1 or 2 years if this is heading in the right direction, at least in terms of those things.
Okay. I did reach out to basically all of the references on the reference list today, and they were all singing praises, mostly relating to responsiveness, just that if they have a question, the answer is
Yeah.
given in detail quickly.
Right.
So thank you to, let's see, I got a message with the Village of Port Dickinson. I think Scranton wrote back to me, and a message with YMCA. Might have been another 1 or 2 that responded, but
Mhm.
thank you to them for responding. I wanted to just, since we were talking about the terms, just to throw in that the term will be for 3 years with 2 1-year optional renewals, just to make sure that that's corrected on the meeting
right.
here. Yep.
Could have brought my glasses down.
Is there I guess maybe that's kind of directed at Councilman and Member Porter, maybe to have some sort of follow-up meetings as a discussion to hear how it's playing out if we go with this
This,
contract.
this is in the finance committee, not employees.
No, I know, but the training manuals, all of that would be in employees, no? Right, I'm saying the follow-up, if we
Yeah,
go
the
with that.
manuals are gonna be for the workman's
Ah,
comp. That's
Yeah.
not so much the
much more, yeah,
employees to be working
employees.
Okay,
with workers when make sure they're educated on workman's comp.
okay, because I'm like seeing all sorts of topics of workplace safety, industrial topics, sexual harassment prevention, management practices. Like, I'd be interested to know if those things are actually being used. And that I was seeing that as an employee discussion, but well, I can take it offline. Any further discussion? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Kent.
And with,
Thank you all.
thank you. With that, we turn it over to Councilman Hotchkiss, Chair of Planning for RL 24-61, an ordinance to amend the 24 budget for the demolition of a fire damaged property at 122 Henry. And we invite down our presenter, Deputy Mayor Hyman.
Hi, Megan. This seems pretty straightforward, but do you want to give us an overview?
Sure. So this is an ordinance to amend the 2024 budget, as it says, to pay for the demolition of a fire damaged property at 122 Henry Street. As council knows, there was a fire at this property last month that was deemed an imminent danger and required emergency demolition. So this legislation allows the city to pay the contractor for that work. It also amends the budget to increase anticipated revenue, as we do with these fire damage demolitions, as we seek reimbursement for the cost.
And you're gonna get that from the owner, correct?
Yeah, so this one's a little bit different because this is one of the properties included in the Anzart settlement, which is still ongoing, but it's something that we anticipate dealing with as part of the closing on those properties.
We hadn't closed on this though, correct? Yet it was
That's
still.
correct. Yeah, the city didn't own it at the time of the fire. We're still in the process of closing on it.
So we'd be relying on the insurance or lack thereof of the previous owner.
So in this case,
Or-
it likely wouldn't be the previous owner's insurance, but it's something that would be worked out as part of that settlement. Am I right on that, Sophie?
So when the fire happened, the building was basically a shell, could have been blown over with a stiff wind. Binghamton Fire Department could not release the scene until it was demoed. So it was an emergency under the fire code. We're authorized to take action. However, we made sure that we communicated that to the owner and dotted our i's and crossed our t's. And it is something that will be taken into account. And we've requested as part of the final settlement. As you know, it involves an extensive number of properties. So, and it is an ongoing case. We can't get too far into the weeds on that, but if any member has a question, they can reach out to me.
Any, Councilman Hotchkiss?
Does Gorick have any competition in town? Because I know it seems like it's all.
Actually, LCP Construction will bid against Gorick, but Gorick has actually done work with the city for probably 50 years of demoing houses and buildings.
LCP has bid on blight reduction projects too, and I believe has received bids in the past.
Got you. Is it, so it's, I'm trying to remember. I think there was they have like a contract to do like the emergency service for demolition of like dangerous structures. Is that?
There are very few companies that are available at this short of a notice, and this was a very tricky property to take down due to its proximity to the surrounding buildings and that infrastructure. So, on a case-by-case basis, it can certainly be evaluated, but they're primarily available for these types of large demolition projects, along with, I believe, another provider, Megan, correct?
I'm sorry.
There's another company that's available as well.
Yes, LCP. Yes.
So it doesn't have to go out to bid, but there's a reason it doesn't go out to bid because it's like the timeliness, you're trying to handle an emergency. Right. Okay. That's. I think that's all I have.
Anyone else? All right. I think we're good on that one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
Um, next, we have, Councilman Middleton, Chair of Municipal and Public Affairs, RL 24-42, an ordinance amending chapter 400 of the city charter, vehicles and traffic, adding the prohibition of operation of off-road vehicles in the city of Binghamton. And
Okay. I guess, this is an ordinance amending chapter 400 of the city charter, vehicles, traffic, adding the prohibition of operation of off-road vehicles in the city of Binghamton. And I think, who added that in? I think,
so I added that.
and Mike did too, right?
No,
Oh.
I had side conversations with him at various points, and I wanted to make sure we had a group discussion on this. I know there's a number of kind of things that maybe we could add, change, modify, see if we can get it to a point where it's checked out and something we're comfortable
With voting on?
addressing, voting on one way or another.
Okay.
So
We're voting on it now.
No,
Oh,
no.
So there was-
She just opened it back up for discussion.
oh.
Yeah, individual discussions that I've had, relating to topics like, the, who gets the money from the fines, right? So right now, my understanding it goes to the Binghamton Police Department. There was some discussion that I had, I think with Dundon, over e-bikes, making sure that we specifically add the language in for protection for e-bikes. So I think Councilman Hotchkiss had a conversation with me about looking at where the money might go. So I wanted to make sure we had a group discussion on that. I don't even remember who I had a discussion with relating to the fines and whether or not we wanted to keep them at the levels they're at or
That was me,
lower
yeah.
them. Maybe that was
Yeah.
one of you.
Also.
Yeah.
Considering certain things involving, maybe even having some kind of, a bike safety kind of commission or drive, or
What?
some kind of commission and some where rules or something can be in play for people to go to, especially when they have offenses
Mhm.
Involving certain things
Okay.
with the ATVs.
And I think I want to say, Councilman Hotchkiss, I think you mentioned maybe using some of the money towards youth at some point.
Yeah,
And I also wanted to introduce this picture that I got from Mike, Councilman Dundon. Because there was some discussion that we had over like, how are people actually using these vehicles? I know in my district, there's a lot of people that are kind of harassing their neighbors with them. But Mike, Councilman Dundon sent me this photo of a gentleman who is quite clearly going somewhere. He's wearing multiple backpacks
And I also mentioned
on
to you,
destination.
I also mentioned to you that people sometimes use it for transportation.
Yeah.
For transportation, for going to work, and just more of a classification on what be considered because as we leave it to the discretion of police, a person who has a 5cc motor to just their bike and not an electric bike or anything like that, and just have it just to their bike, it could be considered maybe a dirt bike just because of the motor on it. So.
I do have an amendment that I was gonna go over with corporate counsel. I just, as it's been sitting and I knew it was coming back to work session, I didn't run right to see her on it.
So do we have a list of these
Yeah, I
things we
mean-
can compile right now? Like, I mean, we're legislating live right now.
Right
folks.
now, yeah, we're here.
So if we do it,
Well, hold
Okay.
on. So if there's, just because it's never
Yeah.
good to answer questions on the fly, if any member that wants to propose a change or an amendment can just email me, and we can chat about it individually,
Okay.
today.
Okay.
Well, I
me
mean, I think
me
we
and
need
Mike
to-
would be happy to work together. We have talked about a few things as involving.
So if we're sending this back to the clerks to work on and Sophie to work
And-
on, what things do anyone want to put out their thing?
Yep, here. I would recommend that any of the fines or proceeds from the impounded vehicles go into a youth programming line for the budget. That was one of them, and I think the fine amounts are basically arbitrary right now. If we reduce what's here in half, it's still 5x or 5 or 6 times more than the minimum amount that they're currently being charged or
Okay.
being impounded for one day. So, I think that's still a hefty punishment. I don't know. That's what I was thinking. There's those two things.
I have to go to my car.
I don't know.
I would like to ensure that there's tracking and reporting of impoundments because we don't have those detailed numbers right now.
Specific impoundment,
Yeah.
if you, that would be more,
So
more
I would
clear.
like that included. That's my amendment.
Yes, I think yes, it was very clear that while we finally made it was not specialized to ATVs or dirt bikes, and it did show police pounding fewer ATVs and fewer
vehicles.
unregistered vehicles year on year, based on what was presented to us via email from the mayor.
Yeah, 'cause it wasn't very
So,
specific. You just left it. to
So
whatever
yes, so
it
it'd
was.
be interesting to see what's actually happening in terms of enforcement.
I know that, like I said, what I was thinking of, just, that's in my car right now, and we don't have time for me to go back to the car. Unfortunately, but what I was also implementing was also dealing with the fines and trying to make it where the funding goes not necessarily to police, but back into some kind of discretionary fund. And I was agreeing with Nate on that with youth, even with having a school or some kind of form of education involving people who paying $150 into it and were to be part of that for that education, as well as those who with an offense of $150, also with a possible 10% on getting their vehicle back, especially if we left it to the discretionary of police. So in other words, I'm not saying ATVs would have to be out, but if we make it specific for certain vehicles like electric bikes, which through this, looking through the amendment that the mayor has put, I haven't seen where it clarifies it, where it does, the state has clarified, but here for this, the city doesn't clarify it to keep it straight with that. So so if people's bikes are being taken, they have a way to get them back at a certain percentage back, especially with the offense that they have. So that was one way of me was coming up. That's why I said I don't. The paper I had when I was filled out is in my car at the moment. So
Hi, welcome down, welcome down. Welcome to the conversation.
Thank you. Just a couple things on this, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. I know no one was listed as the presenter on this. A few things, though. I would urge the council to act quickly in considering this and putting forth any amendments or changes or suggestions you might have. As you all know, as the weather gets warmer, these incidents increase. That's where it really becomes a safety concern in our neighborhoods, a quality of life issue. And then not to mention, like when these are being ridden in parks or places like the Ben Franklin Field, where families will increasingly be going, that obviously creates other public safety issues. The one thing on the fines and possibly lowering them, I think Officer Brown stated this last time, but we're basically using the Syracuse legislation as a model here. That's where our figures were selected for the fines. But the main reason behind the fine and specifically the redemption fee is to create the deterrent. So right now, these vehicles or these off-road vehicles are illegal already under New York state law, but the problem is BPD doesn't feel they have the ability to enforce them to the extent that They can go out and impound a vehicle tomorrow. The person who was riding it unlawfully can go the next day and pay $50 and the vehicle is back on the street. They've seen that happen.
Respectfully, not very often.
Exactly.
It actually happened with the
No, yes, that's, yes, but I'm saying just purely on the numbers of total impounded vehicles. It's not like this is happening on a weekly basis. And
So
so,
and the data that the mayor had shared on the number of impounded vehicles, to someone's point earlier, that did not, BPD currently doesn't keep a distinction between off-road and just all impounded vehicles, and the mayor has committed going forward to that, tracking that
yeah,
data.
we'll put it in the legislation, I think.
Yeah, I would encourage you to do so.
But again, when they're literally impounding less all vehicles every year, I mean, it's not happening very often, is what I'm saying. So I think Councilman Hotchkiss's point was that increasing the fines 5 times is probably enough of a deterrent versus 10 times, because the amount will still be basically more than these things cost new.
Sure.
But
Sure. Yeah, I guess if the point though is to deter the activity, Syracuse has seen very good results with the fine as it is. But just wanted to jump in there. My primary thing, just to urge you to do this quickly and present any suggestions or questions to Corp Council, because with the warm weather, we'll be seeing this more frequently.
So another thought that came up for me while rereading this, related to and goes to that picture that I gave with the gentleman using one for transportation. That right here, it says, often occurring late at night, and that's certainly what I've been hearing about in my district, that, there's people that are joyriding until 3 a.m. up and down certain streets, keeping everyone up and making it hard for people to get to work. So I was kind of thinking about, like, is there a way to differentiate, for example, like the people that were joyriding at Benjamin Franklin at night, purposeless, kind of just destructive activity, versus this gentleman who's probably going grocery shopping, and maybe have differentiated fines between daylight and nighttime, or something like that, to really go after who we want to go after, which is these people that are causing real nuisance to people. I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there as an idea.
I appreciate
discussion.
I appreciate the thought. I think the implementation would be difficult, and I think you start to put the police officers in a difficult situation trying to determine intent. I think it makes the whole thing stickier, unfortunately.
Sunset versus not sunset, like nighttime versus daytime.
Are you talking about penalties in itself during the daytime and nighttime?
I was suggesting that the idea, again, I've never worked on any legislation like this, but it was something that came to me that there are people who are using it
Right,
during the day
right.
for grocery shopping, which, while still illegal, is maybe not the people that we're trying to jack up fines on,
Right.
compared to the people that are riding up and down, bothering their neighbors until 3 a.m, just going back and forth and back and forth and back and
That's
forth.
why,
Right, so the example of the riders that were at Benjamin Franklin, who were then out at Benjamin Franklin the following night, I think is what Councilwoman Middleton and I heard from one of the traffic officers. So those activities are happening at night. So I was bringing up the idea that potentially the additional fines we would want to target at nighttime riding, as opposed to when the safety issues are higher and the public nuisance issues are higher and the quality of life issues are higher, as opposed to, and it's already illegal during the day. So I just throwing it out there as an idea.
I mean, it's already illegal during the day, as well as if it's legal in the day, it's legal at night. So it's all together one. My thing was just, I just want distinction. Just like that, which you're talking about, I want distinction. And I don't want necessarily a blatant response from police to use discretionary acts to just take away people's transportation who are just like that gentleman there. So that's what I'm agreeing that safety and quality of life is important. And nuisance is an issue. So with that, but I just want,
Well, that's part of my amendment on the exemptions, which obviously corporate counsel has to approve, but I do have it written in there that the operator has to be in compliance with New York State traffic law.
which brings me back to my whole point of having a lesson or bike lessons or safety lessons, traffic lessons, dealing with bikes and bicycles on that, so that way they can be compliant. And also you pay a fee into it to even help, in a way of putting towards a certain fund or towards a fund like a youth program or something.
That's kind of a slippery slope though, because that's like taking over, having the city teach kids how to drive a car. I mean, you're kind of on that same teeter and slope.
Well, you don't, that's another thing, you ban kids from actually being permitted to ride the bikes or being at a certain age to be able to ride a bike. So,
Do we, Deputy Mayor's here, do we know, in the Syracuse law, have they covered the sort of things that Councilman Porter has talked about as far as the bicycles that have been converted with these small gas motors? I mean, those seem in some ways even more dangerous than like ATVs, which are made with braking to at least, the brakes are set up for a motorized vehicle and a bike is not.
I'm actually not certain that's covered in this legislation. E-bikes are handled separately.
I don't mean e-bikes. I mean, these are bikes that have been converted with gasoline engines. They're essentially homemade motorcycles almost.
Yeah, but they fall under the guidelines of a moped. So if they're under a certain mile an hour, you don't have to have a driver's license. I believe if the DMV, if it's under 35 miles an hour, you don't have to have a driver's license. So
But
you
a
fall under that
moped is-
as a
he's
moped.
talking about, but a moped has brakes.
A
He's
moped's
talking
road
about-
legal, yeah.
But what I've seen with those people do have brakes that are able to be able to stop them.
Yeah,
There's
you can
no-
legally buy motors to put on a bicycle and it's still compliant with New York State traffic law.
Is there a distinction that you're aware of in this legislation? Or I'm not sure if I'm following the discussion that's happening here and what the legislation in the vehicle and traffic law distinguishes between.
Yeah, I mean, I think the
in there.
concern, so the legislation covers, motorized trail bikes, and certain modifications, motocross, dirt bikes. It doesn't include bicycles. Bicycles are accepted, e-bikes are accepted.
State, yeah, but
Under the New York State.
even New York State law, right?
Right.
But it's
So
not-
I mean,
it's not
certainly,
amended into
if
this,
you look up
it's
the
not put
definition of
into this.
bicycle, right, it includes the e-bikes. So, I mean, I think the intent here is to these certain vehicles are already not legal to drive on city streets for a number of reasons. But I think the primary concern is these unregistered and uninsured vehicles, should they collide with a person, another motor vehicle, a personal property, there's no insurance, right, to cover whatever accident may occur because they're not registered or insured. They're not legal to register.
There's a bike rider though.
So,
There's a bike rider, guy could ride out in traffic and he's not insured, he's not registered. And a lot of
Sure.
these bikes though are sold for on-road use where the law states anything sold for off-road use.
Mhm.
So if it's sold for on-road use and you'd be in compliance with traffic law, then they should be exempt.
So this legislation does not add anything new under the vehicle and traffic law. Like anything that's already illegal remains illegal. It's not adding anything
Just
to it.
enforcing, right?
It's helping to
Yeah,
enforce, yes.
enforce.
You
Well,
will,
but there's no clarification on the exemptions except for bicycles. It doesn't say e-bikes in the law. That's why I wanted to talk with corporate counsel because I have a couple things that I think should be covered in the exemption. So they don't fall in that gray area. So that way we dot our i's and cross our t's.
To make it explicit.
yes.
So, and my question along those lines is these bicycles that have been converted with gasoline engines that are not purpose-built e-bikes or converted with e-bike kits, but that they have these small noisy gas engines that are what? Allow me.
Like 5cc,
5
like
cc's.
5cc.
So that are buzzing around. I don't know their status. So this is, I'm asking a question. I do not know their status under VTL. So
Yeah, so certainly we can look into
Okay.
to that, to the e-bikes and to clarifying if you want to explicitly list what is and isn't covered. Yeah, so I think,
For the Calvert Council, we'll talk about it. I have it.
yeah, so like I said earlier, I mean, I think the best way to proceed is just to forward me your questions. We can get something together and then revisit.
So then I guess I'll.
I think we have a nice, I like this. We're live legislating.
Yeah.
I think this is
It's great.
good. I think this is fun. So between all of these suggestions and input, can we get a functional resolution together for next business meeting? Do we think? Not Wednesday, obviously.
That's what I was gonna ask is what do we need to be able to move forward, and what time frame do council members think we can do it in? Council members slash corporation council. So
So what I'm hearing is just,
amend,
we need to
mostly,
look into certain amendments regarding tracking, fines and exceptions. Those are the 3 bullet points that I took away.
Mhm.
And I'll be chatting with members, getting something together, and certainly with a view towards the April 10th meeting, perhaps.
that sound good to everybody? Okay,
Sounds
great.
good.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
My last piece on that was I had requested body cam footage of the arrests that were at Benjamin Franklin, basically because they were, I don't know, it's being used as like a case study for this, that was denied. And I had appealed, with the mayor, but I think it would be useful to see if this is going to turn into a crackdown situation where you're promoting more arrests, what those actually look like, and if that's what I don't know, to know what we're actually promoting here.
We
That's good.
can try and subpoena it.
Megan.
I don't know if you can.
Wasn't it, it was an ongoing case.
I was gonna say, I don't think you
Yeah,
can subpoena
you
it
might
for
as
an
well just
ongoing
sit here.
investigation.
Might as well sit here
That's
and
a
just.
corporate counsel question.
take
Oh,
a
all the
little-
way back up to the top row. So I believe that request was denied because it's an active investigation. And that's all I wanted to put on record for that.
Are there any historical cases of this situation where we might be able to look at historical?
And so I didn't fully hear what you were saying, Councilman, but I think you referred to it as it was being used as a case
Case
study.
study.
And certainly that, I mean, what happened with that Ben Franklin incident, it was, I don't want to say unprecedented, but it was atypical of when BPD impounds these off-road vehicles, and that those individuals involved attacked police officers. So I wouldn't, in that sense, use it as a case study, but more of just an example of these off-road vehicles are being driven on park properties, school properties. They're presenting public safety issues. I don't know if I can say anything more than I've already shared.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much. And now we're ready to move on, right? Good. Okay, so our last
Thank you,
RL.
Megan.
Thank you so much. Our last RL for the evening, RL 24-54, a resolution calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. And the chair that will be leading this section is Councilman Hotchkiss, who is the committee chair for Special Rules and Studies. And we have a guest presenter, Amari Var. Thank you.
There you go.
Welcome.
Okay. Hi again.
Hi, Amari. Thanks for sticking around.
Yeah, no problem.
And also thank you for your very thorough documentation and explanation. Is there anything that you want to start with?
Yeah,
Excuse me.
so my hope is that everything I submitted today can make this easier for everyone. A lot of background information on various topics, hopefully organized in a way that is understandable. Additionally, the resolution itself that I submitted is it's based on other successful ceasefire resolutions. It's very typical of what a city council says on Gaza right now. It only has 2 resolve clauses that really cut to the 2 most urgent things that we feel are probably, hopefully, the easiest to compromise on and the easiest to discuss. And then the other new thing is that I didn't submit it yet because I want to give people more time to sign it, but there's a petition for this with 245 signatures last I checked, as well as 55 statements asking for this. So that's just the rundown of everything I have today. I'm here for questions though, of course.
Middleton.
Hi, just a quick question. I was looking at this and I've been researching and still, if you can dumb it down for me, what, you said other cities have adopted the ceasefire. What does that, actually do? Like what, just like kind of explain it on the record, like what, that would do and how would Binghamton City Council be involved in this process?
Yeah, so the only action that the resolution calls for is sending a copy of the resolution to higher representatives. So basically what it does is it's a much more powerful signal than any one constituent or any number of constituents in Binghamton calling for this through protests and through emails to our representatives, because that gets lost in the slush and it gets tallied into another number. Meanwhile, a city council doing it says something a lot stronger and a lot more impactful, especially this count is definitely outdated. This is from like 2 weeks ago, but I know of 84 city councils that have passed similar resolutions. And that growing number is what calls on the branches of government that actually have power in this situation to listen to their constituents asking for a different policy.
I understand. Just a few other things. I do know that, I like watching the news and I have family, who, who've been updating me, people have been updating me on this. One of the things, some of us might be worried about, is it like a rush for this to get done on city council? I always ask, like, does this have to be an expedited situation? Like, could we take a look at it and like review it, for a while just to see? Because, this is very important. It also is very controversial with people. I don't, any harm against anyone, I'm against, like, completely. But I, would like to, to look some more and, some more information. Would that be okay for us to really like take a look at it, have some discussion?
Yeah, the sense of urgency comes from two things. One, there was a report released between the time that this was written and edited, so it's included right at the end. It says that famine for 1.1 million people in northern Gaza is likely to begin, which means mass starvation and a beginning of a die-off. Famine is a very, very technical term, between now and May. So there is a very real sense of urgency for the loss of life. In terms of city council discussing it, obviously that is up to everyone here, and it's much, much more important that a resolution that is good and is compromised on it. That is very important, but there is obviously this to consider as well.
So knowing that our national representatives are already on this, Chuck Schumer for the Democrats, Joe Biden, do you really think a city signing on is going to draw any more attention or make that much of a difference?
So in terms of higher representatives, they're not calling for a permanent ceasefire. They're calling for a temporary pause in different language, which is what they've been.
6 weeks.
Yeah, six weeks is what is hopefully is what's trying to be negotiated in Qatar. Right now, earlier today, there was a UN Security Council resolution, which is 2 weeks. Temporary pauses like this happened earlier in the war. It was a pause, people got an amount of relief, and then the march towards famine continued. So that's the word permanent is extremely important in this case and has a huge difference in terms of lives saved. So the needle is being moved towards what the majority of Democrats and Republicans are asking for, but it's not there yet. And we can see uncommitted votes, protests, and city council resolutions probably have been a major factor in the needle moving this far. So I would say absolutely, this is more prudent than ever.
Yeah, because I was just thinking, if you're only gonna get a 6 weeks temporary ceasefire, wouldn't you rather be off like in Albany or at the UN and getting more people out there? I mean, we can sign on to this and looking, seeing that there's only 4 other municipalities in New York, according to your paperwork, that signed on to this. I mean, I just don't see where we're gonna make a difference or anybody's gonna pay attention to little old Binghamton signing on to a resolution at the national level.
Yeah, it's definitely the difference between, one person standing on a corner with a sign and a protest, because the big significant thing is the number going up. Little towns like Talent, Oregon and things like that have also passed ceasefire resolutions, and they get included in this growing number. And that's just as important as Binghamton specifically, because I also talk about it in the packet a fair bit. Binghamton does have not unique, but a relatively potent connection with military contractors and manufacturers. So there is a unique reason for Binghamton to sign on to this as well, but it is also that growing number.
Do you know if like New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, or any of the major municipalities in our country, do you know if they've signed on to this?
Chicago, Detroit, St. Paul, and a couple of other really large ones in California.
And they were all on city council, or were they?
All of those examples were city councils. And then also the Hawaii State Senate just passed it. I'm not sure how far along that is, but I know that the Hawaii State Senate did that.
So the number is growing, because everybody seems to be tired of higher administration not listening, so.
Yeah, Hawaii was just a couple days ago.
Well, I do commend you for coming here. I do commend you for writing this out so I can read it further. I even understand what's going on in Gaza. And I just know I can only speak for myself. That like I have mentioned plenty times during public comment, or that I'd rather be on the side where against genocide than being on this just to sit and wait. So I do commend you for at least coming up with this legislation or resolution to come up with, so that we can try to stop this.
Thank you.
Councilman Kavanaugh?
I have some of Councilman Dundon's, we had a very long, very fruitful talk, I think, Amari, and I also commend you on the detail and comprehensiveness of what you put together. And I think the aims of the language in the resolution itself are very of a kind of universal consideration of humanitarian needs, and not from a particular sort of political or philosophical viewpoint other than well-being. But I still share a lot of Councilman Dundon's concerns, and a concern that is almost the opposite, in that if a body like us or a group of people coming and trying to do a thing with a body like this, and passing a resolution, is it wishing thoughts and prayers on a slightly larger scale, something that makes us feel more comfortable when we should continue to feel fundamentally uncomfortable with what's going on. So I almost worry that it's a gesture would be symbolic in the worst way. But I've not come to a decision on how I feel about this resolution, and we'll be definitely mulling it over, as I think some of the rest of us will be as well. So.
Councilmember Porter.
To that, I would say all I can think of is South Africa. If something like this was brought up to, they're during the time in apartheid in South Africa, as the Afrikaners were actually rolling into Soweto, and during the march when those people just protested peacefully, just marched, sang through the streets and was mowed down. So my question is that if there was a resolution like this back then, maybe there would have been a little bit, much more quicker and much more that Mandiba would have been free. And the Mandiba is Nelson Mandela. So my whole point is that something like this is just as important. And people all around other places are actually getting in on it. I mean, we can make a decision on it, whatever, and I know we all make differences. The whole point is that it needs, something that need to be said that you stand against it. That's, again, my opinion.
Thank you, Councilman Porter. Anybody else? Councilman Hotchkiss.
Sure. I'd like to respond to Councilman Kavanaugh's comment. I don't think that this is something that is purely symbolic, and I don't think it'll be unnoticed by our congressman or senator or our governor even. I do think I really do appreciate you, Amari, for putting this together and being persistent in organizing around this issue. I know you're passionate about it, and it's something that is it's something that needs action to be taken on, and there needs to be pressure in order for that action. And when you can't access the higher levels of power, I understand why you're coming here to this body so that we can move this up the chain of command. And I'm supportive of this. I would like to move this forward. I don't know what else to say, really. I've read through all your documentation. I think it's really thorough and well thought out. And I think that the one spot that just like highlighted for me was that this on page 12, to call for a ceasefire is to acknowledge that the cycle of violence in Israel and Palestine conflict will not be solved with further violence. Instead, the root cause of the conflict has to be addressed. And I think that is what we're attempting to do here in little old Binghamton. I don't want to keep rambling, but yeah, I think this is important that we move this forward, and there's been enough attention on it and people in our community asking for it. I don't think it's going to be a common occurrence for us to weigh in or take action on geopolitical issues, but to the point where things reach such a fever pitch and they're so harrowing, and I think we have the responsibility to do what we can to uplift the voices of our community that are paying attention to this. So that's all.
That's worth mentioning as well, that whatever effect it will have globally, nationally, it will have a very significant effect on our constituents as well. It'll show that you know, Binghamton, the city council, the body representing people, is standing up for what's right, and that definitely plays a real significant impact, especially to those with family in the region, those most affected.
Mm-hmm.
And see, my pause though is, so we have this issue today, 2 years, if there's another geopolitical issue that asks for something similar, are we going to be involved in every geopolitical issue that comes across that's hot in the national media at that time versus staying focused on what our local issues are?
And to that, I would say it depends on what it is and where it does stand on, well, you do have to stand up against something. And it does call for that. Sometimes some of those things do call for you need to stand up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It does mean you need to stand up and say something.
Oh, yeah.
And stand up and show that you're representing, because actually not, believe it or not, we do have Muslim community here.
Oh, I know.
And they actually are voters. So it would be behoove to
But we
us,
have this.
behoove to us to recognize some of these people.
Well, you
And
also
recognize the
have-
humanity.
You also have Jewish constituents that live in this city that are voters too. So you can't ostracize one for the other on personal beliefs.
But there are also those Jewish constituents who are against this as well.
Be surprised if that's not both sides of the fence.
One other thing worth mentioning, the last similar thing to come to the Binghamton City Council that is similar to what's happening today was in 2017, when there was similar outcry, similar fear, and a somewhat similar situation. And that's 5 years ago. But
That's kind of what I'm worried though. Are we opening up a can of worms that every few years we're going to be focused? It might not even be our council, but are we going to be focused? And then we have our attention drawn about something that's geopolitical when there's other stuff that we could be working on locally. That's my only concern. I mean, at the end of the day, that's why we have national representatives. That's why we have state representatives. That's why we have county legislators. So we all kind of stay in our lane and make sure what we were elected for, we focus on.
But-
And I don't disagree with you. We do have to make a stand. And if something sits personally with you, I would speak up. And I mean, I'm not saying I'm against this. I'm just saying I'm worried that we're going to open up a can of worms, that anytime there's a big geopolitical thing, it's going to overshine what we're doing locally. And our job is to be local politicians.
We didn't ever give up the idea of what we're doing today. We always will be putting in legislation all the time. We will always be putting in all the things that needs to be done locally. Both things can happen at the same time.
No, I just want to just add in, I understand what you're both saying. What Mike is just kind of saying is that I agree that we definitely need to do something. We definitely need to take a stand on this. But however, we still want to make sure that we are still taking care of the needs. And like you said, Alamni, we can do both. However, I don't know how to say it. I'm not gonna say anything because I don't want to say something or say it in off. But I understand both sides of it. We do have to come to an agreement because this is wrong, and we know that no one should be treated poorly, tortured, starved. We know that. So, I know we all agree on that part that, we care about everyone. But, to that, I understand your part that, we can do both. And I also understand Mike's part that we want to, I honestly, just from my thoughts and, already, we kind of already have because we're new and coming in, we already have a stigma already. And, it's unfortunate. And I'm not saying that this would bring any type of stigma, but on to what Mike was saying is that he just wants to make sure that we're intentional in everything we do. So that's what I was saying. It's not about Gaza at all, but it's just as us being new city council, as the things that have already transpired so far. What he's really saying is that he wants to make sure we don't have a stigma. So that's all. I was just interpreting.
Further discussion?
That's the mom in me, sorry.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for coming down.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you, Omari.
And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right. Thank you.